This is the Link Trainer Model ANT-18, also known as the Blue Box. It was invented by Ed Link Jr., son of the owner of the Link Piano Company of New York, which made pianos, player pianos, and pipe organs. In the 1920s, Ed was learning to fly, and using his knowledge of pianos and organ mechanics and his father's factory, he set about creating a flight simulator. By 1929, he established his own company to make what he called the Pilot Maker, initially as an amusement park ride. In 1934, the US Army Air Corps began using the more sophisticated Link Trainer as a serious training aid. This led to over 10,000 Link Trainers being produced before, during and after World War II. They were sold in 35 countries and trained over 500,000 pilots. About 160 served for the RAAF until the 1950s, when some were passed on to the Air Training Corps. Some were also acquired by commercial operators. In the cockpit, a trainee pilot would find most of the instruments and controls found in aircraft of the day. To simulate instrument flying conditions, a fully enclosed canopy is used. The trainer is mounted on a universal joint, which allows it to pitch, turn and roll. Hidden in the base below, there is an electric-powered pump that generates a vacuum. This pump draws air from 4 bellows, similar to those found in a player piano. One pair of bellows is set forward aft, while the other pair is set laterally. When the air being drawn from the bellows remains equal, the trainer remains level. Increasing the vacuum in one of the fore and aft bellows and decreasing it in the other will cause the trainer to pitch to a nose-up or a nose-down attitude. The same applies to the lateral bellows, which control the roll of the craft. These vacuum levels are controlled by valves connected to the control wheel or stick. Suspended in front of the craft is a wind motor made up of 2 opposing banks of vacuum bellows, another legacy of player piano mechanics. Controlled by the rudder pedals, the amount of vacuum being drawn from either bank of bellows determines the direction and speed of the pulley at the top. The pulley moves a belt which turns the craft to the left or right, with no limitations. To simulate turbulence, a rough air generator, based on those used in pipe organs to create vibrato, momentarily introduces variable amounts of air to the vacuum lines. Within the trainer, springs connected to the control lines apply variable tension to simulate resistance in line with the deflection of the control surfaces and wind speed. The instruments, some of which are connected to the vacuum system, display the trainer's current situation. Outside the trainer, an instructor sits at a desk and communicates with the pilot via a microphone connected to the pilot's headphones. Electronically replicated instruments on the desk allow the instructor to monitor the flying situation of the craft. The instructor also has the ability to remotely alter some of the control settings. In addition, there is a 3-wheel plotter or crab which traces the trainer's course on a map. The Link Trainer on display at the Moorabbin Air Museum is one of only a few surviving in Australia. A later, modified version of the Link Trainer, the C8, can also be seen at the museum, along with a more modern flight simulator for the Douglas DC-9 jet airliner. The museum's Link Trainer was originally manufactured under licence in Canada for the RAF and was one of 15 delivered to the RAAF at Point Cook in 1942. In 1970, It was discovered by a museum member languishing in a farmer's shed. It was acquired and has been on display at Moorabbin ever since. However, by late 2023, it was in a very poor state, with the original fabric covering becoming very brittle and tearing at the slightest touch. Also, tailplane braces were missing. In stripping the fabric from the wings, ailerons and rudder, structural damage was found and needed to be repaired before new fabric could be applied. Attention was then given to the canopy, fuselage and fittings. The damaged and brittle fabric was stripped and the original timber framing and underskin was sanded back. This was followed by new fabric being cut and applied. New tailplane braces were fabricated and test fitted. Many coats of sealing dope were applied to the canopy and to the fuselage. After the doping and a couple of coats of special aluminium paint, the final blue paint scheme was applied and the serial number was painted on. Next came the tailplane braces and the newly covered and painted door, followed by a trial fitting of the wings. It was now time for the plane to go on display. It was a tight fit under the wings of the Beaufighter, but eventually it was in place, where the wings were added. For protection, perspex covers to the entry and to the rear compartment were fabricated and installed. The final touch was the robotic plotter and map in a new display case. What you can now see at the Moorabbin Air Museum is the result of the skills and commitment of the museum's volunteer restoration team.